Ruled unanimously that the Trump administration must return a Maryland man mistakenly deported to El Salvador. Yeah, that's right. His lawyer, community members, and loved ones have been pushing for this for almost a month. We have our DC News now. Yamarie saying she's live at the Supreme Court. Good morning, Yamarie. I know it's
It was a unanimous decision here at the Supreme Court stating that the White House must facilitate his return back to the U.S. Now, the 29-year-old Tilma Abrego Garcia was first deported back by ICE back in March, but he did have an immigration court order preventing his deportation back to El Salvador in fear of persecution from local gangs. Now, the Trump administration did admit sending him to El Salvador in prison was an administrative error, but claimed he was a member of an MS-13 gang, although he was never charged or convicted of a crime.
Much later.
As Democratic tax she serves on both the Oversight and Judiciary Committee. She served as a public defender before she went to Congress, and she joins me now. First, Congressman, it feels like we have been in this kind of some version of a constitutional crisis or showdown between the courts and this administration almost since day one. Are you heartened at least by the unanimity of this decision of the court saying at least siding with the district judge provisionally here?
I mean, to a certain extent, I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship. I think all Americans may feel like we're in an abusive relationship with this administration as well as with the Supreme Court that struggles to really earn the trust of American citizens, right? And at a time in which we really are wondering whether or not there is going to be this ultimate clash between an order from the Supreme Court and this administration, again, we're kind of in this space where they're basically saying in a unanimous way, which again, as you pointed out, doesn't happen very often, they are saying, you know what, we all agree. And it is very difficult to get them to all agree on anything. So we will see what this administration does. But as far as I'm concerned, if you can figure out how to get them down there, you can figure out how to get them back.
Flashback.
One of the many criticisms of Donald Trump centers on his pledge to deport to forcibly relocate all 11 million undocumented immigrants from the U.S. in his first 2 years in office. But remember, this is how he defended that odious policy in the second presidential debate.
Nobody knows about it, nobody talks about it, but under Obama, millions of people have been moved out of this country. They've been deported.
Now, annoyingly, he's got a point, kind of. The truth is that the Obama administration has deported 2.5 million undocumented immigrants from the United States over 2 terms. 2.5 million. That's the highest number for any president ever. In fact, Obama is on course to have deported more people in his 8 years in office than all of the presidents of the 20th century combined. I guess that explains why his immigration enforcement budget in 2015 was a whopping $18 billion. That's $3 billion more than the budgets of all the other major domestic law enforcement agencies combined. Now, the Obama administration says the vast majority of the people it deports are people with criminal records. Now then, threats to national security, which sounds reasonable, except that a study in 2014 found that 2/3 of deportation cases involve people who had committed minor infractions, including traffic violations, or had no criminal record at all. Take the case of Jose Marvin Martinez, who fled Honduras at age 16 after his brother was murdered by suspected gang members. In 2014, he was deported back to his home country, and just 4 months later, he was shot to death by suspected gang members. Or how about Giovanni Miranda, who arrived in the United States as a child and was working legally when he had a minor traffic accident in 2009. When immigration officers discovered he'd been charged with a minor drug possession offense 7 years earlier, they sent him back to El Salvador, a homeland he'd never known. 3 years after his return, he was murdered by a gang in front of his wife and newborn child. These are just 2 out of tens of thousands of real-life stories, real-world tragedies that many say will forever taint Obama's record on human rights and especially on immigration. So complain as much as you like about Trump's grotesque deportation plan, but the fact is that he's inheriting the most sophisticated and well-funded human expulsion machine in the history of the country from his Democratic predecessor. and shed as many tears as you like for outgoing President Barack Obama, but never forget that until Donald Trump came along, he was the deporter-in-chief.
End of flashback.